Alarm for planet Earth. From the government that refuses to stop a new coal mine in Cumbria or a new oil field off Shetland, the Chancellor, whose recent budget statement talked more about cider than climate, who's just cut passenger duty on domestic UK flights. But what's all this? Plans to force the city to become a world leader in net zero capital.
Today, I'm announcing that the UK will go further and become the first ever net zero aligned financial centre. This means we are going to move towards making it mandatory for firms to publish a clear, deliverable plan setting out how they will decarbonise and transition to net zero, with an independent task force to define what's required.
Questions abound, though, tonight on genuine monitoring and real delivery.
Is it really mandatory? The Treasury is saying no. And why does that matter? Because it creates massive wiggle room for fossil fuel companies, for investment companies to be able to say, we'll carry on investing in fossil fuels. We're not actually going to meet the net zero commitment that the government has set out.
It wasn't just domestic capital getting a reboot today either. If there's just one thing to know about climate and finance, it's surely this. We can't limit global temperature rises to 1.5 Celsius if we continue to fund coal, oil and gas as we are.
This is a watershed.
So today, the former Bank of England boss, now climate advocate, hailed global finance rising, apparently, to that challenge.
Finance is no longer a mirror that reflects a world that's not doing enough. It's becoming a window through which ambitious climate action can deliver the sustainable future that people all over the world are demanding.
$130 trillion, 450 finance and insurance firms across 45 countries committing to net zero in the next 3 decades, obliged to report how, independently audited. In theory, it frees billions to fund renewable energy, electric cars and so on. In theory. Too little, too slow, but a major leap forward nonetheless, says a key strategist behind the Paris Climate Accord.
The truth is that what those entities have committed to is a roadmap to get to a point where they're part of the solution. They're not completely part of the solution right now. So now we need to see that that rhetoric is matched with action, but actually these commitments are really serious.
But, and there's a big but in the small print, not one single rule here to stop a single dollar continuing to flow into oil, gas and coal. There's nothing either of significance about taxing aviation fuel. What there is a rather comfortable agreement with the banks which allows them to play the game and do the same, to talk publicly about being green and net zero, whilst privately funding millions of dollars month after month into the oil and gas industry. There are reports tonight that a growing alliance of around 20 countries, including the UK, Denmark and Finland, is pledging to end all foreign fossil fuel investment by the end of next year. But if you do still want to invest in new oil and gas, then the boss of the International Energy Agency, no less, has a warning for you tonight about stranded assets.
They can still invest, but the risks of those investments are growing, whether or not they will be stranded assets or they will bring handsome profits to the investors. The risk is growing, so therefore the investors should pay attention to these meetings and the messages coming from here.
For sure this is a feather in Mr. Carney's cap, but it's a start only. It forces banks to some degree to begin being part of a solution, but it still allows them to be a source of the problem.